Hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. You're probably wondering why I have these fancy red light glasses on. Well, stay tuned and you'll find out. Today we get into some really interesting conversations. I'm talking good stuff. Like, why aren't we growing up? You know, taking responsibility, employing a little bit of discipline to get to that next level. That's the journey we're going to take you on today. So please pull up a chair, grab some popcorn, do all those normal YouTube things. Indulge us with your time. We appreciate you for being here. This is Below the Trees. John, how the hell are you, buddy?
Chilling, bro. How are you?
Good to see you. I see you have some fancy glasses on. Do you want to tell us about that?
We're at war with blue light.
We're at war. It's so actually this week I was talking to my wife about this whole blue light and red light thing. And I'll be honest with you, I can't articulate it for shit. I'm terrible at trying to articulate it. I just sound like, hey, man, you know that red light? It's better for you. Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
The sun, I think. And that blue light, oh, man, that's what the sheep use.
Yeah.
To guide them through the world.
Right.
But no, so I'm having trouble articulating it. But I understand it. I'm just not there at...
So what do you... I guess let's try to unpack it. What do you understand?
I understand that it's better for you. That's about it. But no. So I did though. So what I did because at work, right? I'm working on my computer and stuff like that for hours.
Yeah.
And I'm on my phone, and sometimes I need to be on my phone for work, or even at night, just using the phone. It's probably not as strong, but I've been using the red shift on especially at work, and then I turned the light down at night, so it's a little less harsh on my wee little eyes. And the same with my phone. I have it on red shift right now, but I think Dr. Cruz, his red shift is like really fucking red, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a separate app. They don't want you to not see this blue light.
So there's still a little bit of blue light.
So there's always going to be the blue light.
There's always blue light.
Unless you really change the setting to I think it on Apple grayscale.
Yeah.
And even then there's still blue light that's going to be emanating
From the background light.
From the whole screen.
Yeah.
The whole way it was made.
I don't think we talked too much about the red light, blue light thing last episode, if I recall.
Probably not. Maybe.
No, I think we touched on it really. We touched on specifically being outside in the sun, doing hard things in the sun.
Yeah.
Specifically working out.
Right.
Things like that. Since the pod, I've been going on long walks.
Good.
In the sun. And I was outside. I went to the botanical gardens today. I think we were there maybe 3 hours just walking around looking at nature. And it's interesting. I was telling my wife this, how much your mood improves just by actually being outside. Yesterday, by contrast, I don't know, I was just wiped out mentally.
Right.
So I stayed home, didn't do a whole lot. But today when we got up, we went out. Went to the farmer's market, went to the botanical garden, and I just felt energized. It's crazy. Just by doing, you actually get a lot. So we have this kind of weird feeling that what is rest really? You know what I mean? It's like if you're resting, you're not moving, so you're not energizing yourself in some way. It's kind of like a car battery, I think. But yeah, so I felt really good today doing that.
As it should.
Yeah.
As everyone does.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel so much better after working out, mentally, than if I missed a workout or something.
So I'm not an expert on the history of it either.
Yeah.
But the quick synopsis of it would be essentially the CIA was starting to use programs like MK Ultra
Yeah.
to try to understand what are the benefits and if there are any controllable benefits to using drugs, lights,
Mm-hmm.
uh, wireless energy, uh, essentially what we're used today with our Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And so it was with a doctor, I believe, in Tulane University in New Orleans, Dr. Delgado, who essentially came up with the idea of let's try controlling the mind of monkeys, because it was at a monkey lab, with waves.
Mm.
And eventually that became blue light. And the CIA was the one who was kind of behind all of this.
Yeah.
And so later we see in the 90s and 2000s Google and Facebook fighting for the rights of emanating the blue light on all of their screen exposure on their websites.
Mm.
And so the frequency that computer monitors, laptops, phones,
Yeah.
everything that's made is made under the blue light frequency, because they know that this blue light frequency can now get deep into a cellular level, infecting something that's connected to, in a sense, our bloodstream, our nervous system, our mind, dopamine,
Yeah.
hormones. And so the reason that, as we were talking previously, why are you so horny and so addicted,
Yeah.
is because of the blue light. The blue light is fucking with your hormones, right? At
Yeah.
a cellular level. And we don't even know about it.
Yeah.
And so,
And this, I think, when we were talking about this last week, it was, or actually on Thursday, yeah, that is affecting the T.
part of it, because
Okay.
it's just your hormones in general, the whole hormonal system,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your behavioral mechanisms, right? Your serotonin,
Yeah.
your dopamine, all of that gets hit.
Let me ask you. So, let's say just as a lay person who's watching this and says, okay, that sounds crazy to me. The CIA, the government's involved, these big corporations. What about my screen is just blue? It's easy to see. Like, why is there some sort of conspiracy element? What would you say to a person like that if they're thinking that this is more conspiratorial or just not real?
Follow the breadcrumbs that are there.
Yeah.
Do your own research. And I think this kind of ties into the topic for today, which is, how the hell are you going to grow up? And how do you grow up is by thinking and becoming your own man.
Yeah.
And so if your research leads you down this road, well then, congratulations. Otherwise, you will never find or understand or even want to understand this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of inherent as to the kind of man that you are, that you want to become, and how you want to become it is dependent on your discipline, your actions, your ability to do research.
Yeah.
And so if your research leads you so astray from the norm, then I think you got to be man enough to understand, okay, do I believe this, or do I think that this is all just hoopla bullshit?
I think that's definitely part of the equation because, people can do lots of research, right? There's so much information available. Now, how do you meaningfully parse through that research and distinguish what is good data, what is good science, or what
Let me ask you
kind
this,
of conclusions?
Brian.
Yeah.
Just real simple.
Hit me.
What happened during the jab, we weren't allowed to go outside. We weren't allowed to participate. We weren't allowed to enjoy the benefits of the sun.
Yeah.
We were literally told in this country, stay inside. It's for your safety. And when you have characters like Joe Rogan saying, no, you're fat, you're lazy, you need to go outside, you need to go work out, you need to do something that's difficult. Oh, and maybe the science that I'm listening to, because I'm listening to something that's completely different, is telling me and other people,
Yeah.
you can take this variety of pills or drugs, and that'll help combat whatever the hell just got injected into the entire population, and then told to the entire population, stay at home, don't do anything.
Yeah.
And then you see this acceleration of new diseases, or people who are even younger with new diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and getting it in their 30s, in their 20s. Why? If you dig deep enough, you'll find that a lot of this starts with literally the creation of the light bulb. And the creation of the light bulb was a difference between two different lines of thinking, AC current versus DC current. Thomas Edison versus Tesla and Westinghouse. And Edison had the money, the backing of JP Morgan and Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And so they financially destroyed Westinghouse and Tesla. And so the norm became Edison's conductivity compared to Tesla's. And that's where we see this massive divide. And so this starts, New York gets electrified in the early 1900s, in like 1880s, 1890s,
Yeah.
in the Morgan House, in the Vanderbilt home, in New York City, with Edison leading the charge out of his workshop and factory in New Jersey to electrify these people's homes. And then the first case of Alzheimer's in America occurs in 1901 in the East New York City. More than likely somebody working near where these new plants were being created or tested.
Yeah.
And so we get this new paradigm shift of diseases with the advent of technology.
Yeah.
And we see this acceleration with Fauci joining forces into the Department of the whole government and health,
Health and Human Services.
making more money than the president in the 1980s, and doing so all the way up until we realize that it is practically committing perjury in the country and that they would be beheaded. And so they take the entire research institute that they had offshore to Wuhan and to Ukraine. And if you don't believe it,
Yeah.
go do the research.
Yeah. You know, I'm not saying I don't believe you or anything, but
that's
I haven't seen all of this research. A lot of what you are saying is stuff I'm familiar with. But
do part of becoming the man is being able to do this research.
Yeah.
And I don't have notes in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm just talking. I'm just telling you.
Is that a jab at me?
Absolutely not. I have notes that are going to be coming up a little later.
Yeah.
For a different reason. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm able to talk on it because I've done the research, I've done my homework.
Yeah.
And I've understand it, and even at a surface level, kind of understand the science.
Yeah. See, I think even, let's say, for someone who has not familiarized themselves with the research, I don't think it takes anyone to question. It's like, okay, if these technologies are brand new, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? every technology, every policy has some sort of trade-off,
Right.
right? So I think even if someone who is completely unfamiliar with the research, they can logically reason that, hey, there's going to be consequences for decisions. There are consequences to with the advent of new technologies, right? So that, I think, would lead at least someone watching, I think, to question, hey, what the hell's going on?
Riddle me this. Why did
Yeah.
Steve Jobs die so young? Why did his co-founder with Microsoft and Bill Gates, Paul Allen, also die
Yeah.
very young? All of these technologists, these great technologists, die very young. They're obsessed with their technology.
Yeah.
And Gates, at least, has decided to focus on science. And we have this technologist during the jab season become our number one person and spokesperson for all of the newfound research for this mRNA vaccine. When we know in the 90s he was in Africa doing research on malaria and using mosquitoes, because if you didn't know, mosquitoes, the ones that bite are female.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew that.
And the females use our blood to then create eggs. And so the thinking was, thanks to gain-of-function research, if we now have these male sterilized mosquitoes that are also infected with whatever we're trying to give the population, we can now find this new term called herd immunity. And that's what they were testing in Africa with these mosquitoes. And that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so what's to say that within 20 years something new hasn't been developed? And when money and funding has been now sent to places like Ukraine and China and Wuhan, it just makes it all the more interesting for the kind of research that you can now do behind the curtain. Without the purview of the U.S., without the black budget of the U.S.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's happening. And so, yeah, I'm wearing my glasses. I'm taking my stand because I care about my health.
No, that was a great answer, and I appreciate you sharing that. But you said at some point during your monologue that this relates to today's topic. So, John, with that, segue us, please, into today's topic.
So how the hell are you going to grow up?
That is the question. And I think, obviously, the way the series, from at least starting from the last episode, is building on each other. So for those of you who are watching this, hasn't seen our last episode, the link for episode 6, why are we so anxious and horny all the time, is going to be in the link. So please check that out. Give it some likes, comments, and subscribe, by the way, all the YouTube things. But yes, why the hell and aren't we growing up, and how the hell are we going to grow up, John?
I think it always starts with discipline.
There we go.
And we were touching on it last episode, but I didn't want to give it enough credit because that wasn't the topic. And I didn't want to, make the alluding joke of saying you need to have the discipline to be on your computer and continue jacking off. Like, no, that's not what I was leading at. That's horrible discipline. Yay on you for being there, but no, stay away from your computer, go outside, actually go talk to a girl. That's what we were trying to hit at.
I think, that was what we were trying to get at.
The discipline of showing up to your jiu-jitsu is very important, and I think you'll become more of a man by doing that. That's the discipline that we're talking about. But it's like the small things. So you could ask like a military sergeant, more than likely the stereotypical answer is going to be, I want you to get up, shine your boots, make
Yeah.
sure everything's clean, do your best to ensure your work area is pristine,
Yeah.
do your best to make sure that like your bed's folded,
Yeah.
you know, did your laundry, dishes are not dirty, there's no dirty dishes in the sink.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the stereotypical, you know, clean,
Yeah.
right? You're growing a mustache, and the Yankees are only allowing mustache and
Yeah.
no stubble, unless you go. You can't have a full beard. No.
Yeah, in the Yankees program, it can't.
Clean shaven.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a joke, right? Like, if
The
they see a
Yankee
guy, if he's got a little too much stubble, hey, shoulder hurts. No, it's fine. Fucking use a fucking razor then. God damn it.
That's true.
So,
I've actually exclusively been shaving at work,
right.
so as I save my pipes.
Mm.
That's probably not the best reason, but I don't mind shaving at work. It's not too bad, but I see what you're saying. No, I'm glad we saved discipline. I think that if coming from last episode was, hey, why are we anxious? Why are we watching porn? Why are we horny all the time? If we're identifying, hey, here's the issue and here's some solutions, I think that is going to be a sign of where we are, right?
Right.
Mentally, right? And the need to grow up. I found a really good quote today that I thought was, that I'm going to paraphrase. But basically, children without any discipline is one way to not having true fulfillment, and that children will be slaves to their weaker natures. And so, the phrase "discipline is freedom." We talked a little bit. It was offline. Was attributed to Aristotle, and I think that's an important phrase. That discipline is freedom, because kind of like what we were touching base on before we went live is that. I think obviously like discipline is associated sometimes, especially what we're talking about, like that military sergeant. And I think people would say, well, there's rigidity there, right? There's, lack of thought, lack of ideas, things like that. Sometimes it's almost conformist in some ways, like it's authoritarian. And I don't think that's the case. I think when you say discipline is freedom, I think what you're saying is that you're not going to let those vices, the stuff of our weaker nature, control you, right? How much of the external world are you going to allow to control you? And I think having discipline gives you the freedom of thought to make your own decisions as much as you can. To control your own emotions in certain situations. Obviously things external happen to us all the time. But I think the difference between someone who has discipline and someone who doesn't is really apparent in their response. All right, if you have someone who's undisciplined, when disaster strikes, that whole world is crushed and reshaped, and it's almost as if they're controlled by that situation.
Isn't that what nature naturally does?
True.
That's mass extinction events.
Fair. But I guess, we're talking specifically about growing up, right?
But that's part of growing up.
Well, I think part of growing up in that sense is you have to have the humility to accept those things. And I think that comes with discipline.
To know that you need to be prepared.
Exactly.
To know that you're not going to be able to have defense if you're trying to kill someone when your gun's dirty.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
I guess the point I'm trying to make, though, is that if someone who has no discipline, that let's take the example of a car accident, right? If a car accident happens, I think someone who's mentally been there, who has the discipline, and they in their lives, they're much more balanced in a sense that they'll be able to respond to that situation without having it overload their sensory. And when you're overloaded with all of your sensory information, everything, all this data is coming in, and you don't know how to process it, or because your mind is that of a child where you can't process it, or it's processing at a rate that you can't use that information, then you just freeze. I mean, you see it all the time, right? People are put in stressful situations and they freeze up.
Yeah.
So I think, if we're trying to, promulgate a message about growing up, I think preparing yourself, having that discipline to prepare yourself, put yourself in that situation before it ever happens, I think it's going to, put you in a better position to respond to things when it doesn't happen. I think a large part of that is discipline, right? Discipline to train, the discipline to, read, discipline to, like we always talk about, doing hard things. That's going to make you inevitably better at responding for certain things. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, that's all the prescient points that we need to hit.
Yeah.
Like, you need to train, and in order to train, you do have to be disciplined. You have to show up.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do the work. You have to actually pick up the weight.
Yeah.
If you're doing a sport, you have to practice the sport.
Yeah.
If you want to get better. If you want to get better and you want to be a better reader, then you have to read more.
Yeah.
If you want to think more and you want to think a little bit bigger than what's norm or what was taught to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that work yourself. And so here's the next problem. If you find yourself in a situation where you don't have mentors or father figures, then what are you left to do? What are you supposed to do?
I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? I think part of that problem is there's a search, and especially young men, there's a search for that placeholder. And, I think that space sometimes gets filled with just a lot of bad actors or people who are, deliberately misrepresenting what they're trying to sell. And I think that's another thing too. People are trying to sell something all the time. And while I don't hate the hustle, and, everyone's got to make their money somehow, right? I think especially if you're someone who doesn't have that mentor, father figure, or father in your life, it's hard to know where to go. And I think it kind of comes back to what you said. Hey, we got to research these things. But I think it also is trying to ascertain and good information out of what you research, because sometimes there's bad information out there that is deliberately misleading, or not good information for you, right? I mean, I think especially speakers who talk about having as many sexual partners, and that being as sort of a guide to what you need to do without developing who you are first. I think that's misleading in some ways.
But I think the bigger question is learning.
Exactly.
And so you're going to learn one of two ways. You're going to learn either because you have someone who is able to be that mentor,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of take you by the hand and to kind of guide you, either gently or through tough
Mm-hmm.
scenarios, or by failure.
Yeah.
And failure in the sense could be looked at as like the educational, you got an F, or like you're saying, you're listening to someone who's sounds like they know what they're saying, but in fact they're just selling you something. They're charlatans in that sense. And I think in both ways, if you do have enough of that humility to kind of take a step back, then you will learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those roads will lead to growth.
I think the important thing about failure, though, that I think gets lost sometimes is most people, I would argue, probably learn from failures. And the learning could be negative or it could be positive, right? I think generally speaking, everybody learns something. Now, how do you make sure that...
Not always.
Well, I will say I'll argue that, yeah, I think most of the time people learn something where I'm not going to attribute whatever they learn, I'm not going to attribute that as a positive or a negative, because it could totally be negative, right? But I think everyone takes away something from a failure. Sometimes I think what people take from failure is, hey, I fucked this up so bad, I'm never doing this again.
Right.
And so that's a learned behavior, I think.
But that's also a hope.
That's also what?
A hope. A hope that if you fuck up that much, you're going to learn, I don't want to go down this road again.
Yeah, I mean...
So
it's definitely context-based.
I'll do better.
Okay.
Right? And if you're going to try again, do something different about it.
But this is what I was going to get at. I think when you do fail, it's easy to kind of put yourself of, okay, this is what I need to do better, right? Obviously, those are things that I think people who are conscientious have the ability to do, right? But I think what they need to do is part of taking that step back and really learning from their failure is having a little bit of grace on themselves, right? You said it best, humility. I think to go along with humility, empathy, right? Give yourself a little bit of grace and understand that, hey, I tried something difficult or I tried something new and I failed. It sucks. And sometimes, and I think in order to really get the full benefit of your failure, you have to sit with it, right? You have to sit with your failure and just let it humble you and not try to fix it right away. Obviously for every different task that you have, it's going to be context-based when you need to fix it by, right? But if it's something that you have to fix within a day or the next try, sit with it for a second. Sit with it for a day. Whatever time allows you, sit with it. Take that in and say, you know what, this does suck. And then from there, once you've given yourself a little bit of grace, once you've humbled yourself in front of that process, I think then when your mindset is, okay, now I'm ready to go. I've already sat with this. I know what this feels like. I don't want to happen again. Then I think it's easier to extract where you failed and how to fix it and how to be better the next go around.
Here's the problem with this thinking, though.
Hit me.
This is a very Catholic, Christian-based belief, where we're constantly trying to do better, to be better, to become better. And then when you throw in the slice of religion, it's to say, in the eyes of God, right? Not everybody has that.
No.
Not everybody's going to want to have that will to do better, to desire, to say, I'm going to get better. They're just going to say, well, shit always happens like this to me all the time. No different.
Yeah, that's true.
And so what do you say to somebody who is not initiated or anointed under the grace of God?
Yeah.
To then say, how can you learn that behavior? Because that's a learned behavior. That's the whole point of having confession. That's the whole point of being able to recognize that you've made a sin, you've committed an error, you've fucked up.
Yeah.
That's where sports are great.
Yeah.
You made a mistake. It's clear as day where the mistake was or how you made the error. Right? And so how are you going to retrace those steps to figure out how to do that in a context where you don't have a God?
I think it comes back, you have to start at the beginning. I think in order to become more conscientious and because that's what it really boils down to is, right?
That.
Conscientiousness.
And that is something that if we look at on the East, right?
Yeah.
They'll tell us that's meditation.
Yeah.
Right?
But how do you develop meditation? right?
by wanting to do better. And that is kind of the
Fair. No, I hear what you're saying.
The boiling point there
Yeah,
is faith.
correct.
So how do you find faith? Do
But-
you find faith in always striving to do better? Or do you find faith after failing so many times that you are literally left with nothing left? Right? Because when we're watching a movie, that's what a good movie is.
Yeah.
Good movie is you get to the point where it's as it's not Tennessee Williams. Who am I trying to quote over here?
Should have had it written down.
But it's the human heart in conflict with itself.
Yeah.
Faulkner.
Okay.
And that's during his acceptance speech.
Yeah.
But that's the point of good literature. That's the point of any good movie. That's the point of anything. It's to find those moments where the human heart is in conflict with itself.
Yeah.
And so that's where we get to see where that road gets divided.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So,
but you're quite okay.
How do we find that point to either say I'm going to develop, or life is just bullshit and it's not going to get any better? And then at some point, maybe you might make a turn, and then it starts changing, and your view of it starts changing. And that's where I'm saying, in some points, that's where you get religion. In some points, that's where it's a mentor. In some points, it's your own self-growth, self-development. It's the education.
Mm-hmm.
Could even be religion, right?
I mean, but here goes the thing, right? Obviously I'm not quibbling with you in the sense that I think what you're saying is inaccurate, right? But your question specifically was if the context we're speaking in this in is faith-based, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does someone who doesn't have that, how does someone find that level of conscientiousness, the discipline, and the ability to seek education from their failures to inevitably grow? And I think, if we're talking about this individual who says, man, my life sucks, I'm just a victim to my own life, right? That's a trap, right? That's a cycle that you're never going to break. I think we talked about this analogy last episode, but you're dealt a set of cards that you have zero control over, right? When I play a game of poker, I don't get to choose what cards I have. It's dealt to me. What I choose is how I play those cards, right? And so if someone who is not thinking about these things, or who doesn't have a mentor to teach them how to play the game, or who doesn't have a father, or doesn't have a good family to inculcate those values, because I think that's the importance of the quote I was trying to say earlier, is that children are going, if without self-discipline and without self-control, they will be slaves to their weaker virtues. Right? I think that's so true. But what's the counter to that? When we're kids, we have institutions that shape us, right? Some of these institutions are family, right? Some of these institutions are education or school. Some of those institutions are religion. It's multifaceted. So if a person doesn't have those values inculcated early on, how do we get them to see that there's more to this? And I think part of what you said, I agree with part of what you said when it comes to hitting the bottom so many times, right? Hitting that end. What does that end look like? It's going to be different for every person, but going through that despair is probably a better mentor than some actual mentors at times, right? But you need that person to see for themselves that, yes, they're going through fucking bullshit right now, but are they going to be a victim to that and blame everybody else, or are they going to take life by the horns? And that's the $1 million question.
I just think it just depends on the person.
And that's really what happens, because just unfortunately, there's some people who don't get out of that trap.
Right.
And there's people who, can repeat those cycles over and over and over again and never learn from their failures. Their failures, I think they would blame it on external factors, not themselves, right?
Right.
So, at the end of the day, I think if someone who doesn't have a mentor and someone who doesn't have those values inculcated, and let's just be blunt, live like children. I'm not here to be nice right now, per se, but saying it with empathy and humility is that we have to not live like children.
Right.
And once we accept that, hey, there's things that we can control, I think we go ahead and we control them. Why are you smiling over there? Is it because I'm getting spicy?
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
That's all.
No, but yeah, I mean, I have another quote that really interests me, is that we are what we repeatedly do. Now, the second part of that same quote, again from Aristotle, is that excellence then is not an act, but a habit. But in that example, I think Aristotle posits that someone is choosing excellence there already, right, as their habit. Now, what if someone doesn't choose excellence, and what if someone chooses mediocrity, or what if someone chooses, the lesser version of themselves? Again, the quote still stands: "You are what you repeatedly do." If the transverse of excellence is, childhood, right, and is infantile, then you are not. That's not an act, but that's a habit. So I think it's important for people to realize that consistency is what's going to ultimately make you who you are, and what you consistently do is going to shape you.
I agree.
I thought that was a good one. But no, I mean, I think it still stands, man. I think in modern day, right? Was it you and I talking prior? I think it was last episode. We were just talking about the stars and stuff. No, that wasn't us. I don't think we talked about the stars last episode. Anyways, it's difficult in modern society, I think, more so than our predecessors, is because with the advent of technology, there's so much more to marvel at, right? Our attention is so divided. And, you look at our ancestors, they would stare at the stars, right?
So now we are talking about the stars.
Now we're talking about the stars.
All right.
But they would stare at the stars, right? So in some ways, I'm not saying, not to downplay.
So, I mean, the stars is now taken over by light pollution.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And my argument earlier is we at home have our own pollution called blue light. And we don't even know that it exists, but it exists on every screen that we lay our eyes on.
I agree with you. But especially, I look at the amount of light pollution that, even on a clear night, you only see a handful of stars in the sky.
Well, we're in Los Angeles, bro.
That's what I'm saying, right? Even 150 years ago, it wasn't like that in this area. But here's my point. My point is, I think in some ways we have some disadvantage over our ancestors that, and maybe this is a little bias on my end because this is where I am right now, right? So admittedly, it is a little bias against our ancestors, but I don't think our ancestors had the amount of almost assault on our attention, right?
No, for sure.
And I think if they had the same preconditions that we have today, I think they would probably struggle with a lot of the same stuff we're talking about. I mean, I remember, I was listening to Rogan's podcast where he was talking, and he said this a few times before, but they introduced cell phones to remote villages in the Amazon, and the first, a couple weeks in, everybody's addicted to porn.
I wonder why.
Exactly. The shit is powerful. So there's a little bit of humility on my end, and I think this is what people should grant themselves, a little bit of humility and a little bit of empathy to themselves, because this is not easy, right? I'm not here speaking today that I have it all figured out, and I don't think you are either. I think both of us, and this is something I was really contemplating on my drive here, is that both of us are on our own journeys, right? And I think both of us are trying to learn and trying to grow and understand our worldview better. By no means are we experts. By no means that we know every answer to every question. But I think what I enjoy doing about this podcast is it allows me to check myself too, right? And
For sure.
But there's such an assault on our attention span that I want people to grant themselves a little humility that this is not an easy battle, right? We're being fucking blitzkrieged every day mentally. And that's not an easy war to fight, dude, especially if you don't have, if you don't have true values inculcated in, through whatever institution, whether it's the family or school or whatever. And sometimes even those institutions are fucked too.
But that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like taking the stand, against the norm.
Yeah.
And indoctrinating yourself in the other.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the study that is not norm. It's not going to be taught to you.
Yeah.
You're going to have to fall through multiple rabbit holes. But by doing it, you're going to come out a better person, a better individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's I think this is only part of the complex of growing up, because I think, going back to what we were saying in the last pod, I know I mentioned that Jordan Peterson is the one who says you have to become a monster.
Yeah.
So I think that's the next other part of this equation of growing up.
Yeah. No,
So
100%.
how do you become a monster, Brian?
You put on a big ugly mask, like this mug here with my mustache.
Jesus Christ.
No.
So you
I
hide your identity behind another identity, is what you're telling me?
Exactly.
That's
That's
how
how
you
you
become
become
a
a
monster?
No,
No.
of course not. Dude, I think becoming the monster, I think it has to do with a couple things, right? I think it has to be radical acceptance of responsibility. I think that's one thing, one avenue of becoming a monster is you have to accept that your actions are a byproduct of your actions, or your decisions, and the consequences of those decisions. The consequences of those decisions are yours, right? Again,
Right.
we only play the hand we're dealt. But how do we change our luck? How do we change? Not necessarily luck. How do we change our status? We play the cards, and we get better hands, right? So I think that's part of becoming the monster. Discipline, right? I think discipline, as we've already hit on a bunch, is that in order to really become that monsters, you're going to have discipline. And I think the former lends into the latter. Part of having discipline is accepting responsibility for those things, right? I think becoming the monster also means giving, right? I think that is a huge thing that sometimes we forget. Giving of our time, giving of our resources to others, and really kind of being an anchor, right? I think taking that time to mentor someone, right? And mentor someone, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to give up all of your time to someone else. I think sometimes you can mentor someone just by talking. Hey, where are you right now?
Right.
How are things? Just being a good listener. And sometimes, I found that, something random I told someone, a couple years later will come back, hey, I remember you said this to me. And in my mind, it wasn't really nothing. It was kind of, maybe it was just something I thought at that moment. But wasn't super consequential, but to someone in that moment, because I gave them whatever time, and I listened, or shared a positive thought, that sticks with people.
No, always, for sure.
So I think that, at least in my mind, and I haven't read a whole lot of Peterson. I listened to a lot of his podcasts and some of the stuff he goes on, so I know that stuff he's talked about. But yeah, I would say doing those things, man, that's what gets you to that next level.
But knowing your strengths, right? Developing your strengths.
Yeah.
Having strength. Like, genuinely having the confidence in yourself to know that if you are in a sticky situation, you'll be able to get out of it.
I use this phrase sometimes, and this might be a little bit controversial. Maybe not.
Fire away.
But here goes the thing. There's this phrase I heard. It's called "watch the watchers," right? And it applies really to like active shooter situations, right? If you're in a situation of high stress, like an active shooter, right?
Okay.
How do you respond to something like that? And I think it's all about your mindset, right? You set that mindset to, hey, something bad could happen, and this is what I'm going to do to respond to it. It's already putting that into motion. So I always tell people, watch the watchers. If you're at a place, if you're anywhere in public, be cognizant. Don't be buried into your phone. Be aware of your surroundings. There's this thing called environmental baseline, right? If you're somewhere, there's an environmental baseline. And if you're out, let's say, at a restaurant,
right?
That baseline is people are probably going to be generally in a good mood with one another at their tables. They're going to be talking with each other. Maybe they're on their phones. The staff is going to be busy walking around.
Yeah.
That's the baseline. So your job in that situation is, what sticks out to me? Because if that's the norm, that's where you can kind of go on automatic pilot. But then there's going to be something that sticks out. Maybe it's a family who are arguing at the table. That's going to stick out because it's out of the baseline. Maybe there's someone who's watching everybody, and you watch that person, right? And the reason I bring this up, because I think it has a lot of value in life. How do you respond to things? You have to know the baseline. You have to know the environmental baseline. Know what's normal and know what's not normal. And I think that's going to give you an edge in any sort of high stress situation. It applies to almost every facet we do. There was an interesting podcast I listened to. Andrew Bustamante. He's a ex-CIA spy.
One CIA, always
right.
CIA.
But he actually gave a really, really good example that has stuck with me. This was a while ago. He said in Vietnam during ambushes, they studied this, and there was 3 types of soldiers. There was, and they had all paternal, almost characteristics. There was like a paternal type character, a maternal type character, and someone who would cower. So during ambush, and I'm not going to quote the actual percentages here, but I think I can articulate it clear enough where it makes sense. So during an ambush, if someone were to run away, cower away, they would more likely not. They had a higher percent of chance of fatality.
Sure.
Right? You're instantly on the defense. If you're even defending yourself, right?
No, you're running away.
You're running away. They found the maternal.
It's the easiest target. It's like, oh, look.
Yeah.
Here he goes.
Exactly. Just get that fucker. Get the fucker running. They found the
Bob, you got him?
They found that the highest fatality was amongst the maternal ones. So the maternal ones they identified in this study was the ones who stood up, almost sacrificing themselves by saying ambush, so it alerted the entire group. They were the most ones to likely pass away. and killed in those types of environments.
Naturally.
The ones who responded to the ambush by fighting back, those were the highest rates of survival. And I think there's
so the lesson here is don't be a bitch.
Don't be a bitch. I think this is part of it. I think there's importance, right? In most situations, I don't think it's good to run away, right? There's a chance that you'll run and escape, but there's also a chance you're going to get killed. So I think in terms of sacrificing yourself to save others, I think there's a clear moral good about doing that, and there's something that we value about those people who sacrifice themselves, others, especially soldiers. But I think, to me, what really stood out is in those moments of high stress, you have to respond. And sometimes that response is offense, right? And that could be with anything, man. Whether it's an active shooter or whether it's at work. You got to meet, and I know we talked about this last episode, but you got to meet the moment. Get that puff out, man. You had something to say. I saw it in your eyes.
Yeah, no, I do. Of course I do. All right, this is my segue.
Hit me.
To kind of make a point at the same time, though. I have a black belt.
Mm-hmm.
I've studied boxing. I've studied Muay Thai. The black belt is in Taekwondo, so I can kick really, really well. And then I went on to study the boxing because I wanted to learn how to punch even better. And then Muay Thai because I wanted to learn all the knees, the elbows, the push-aways with your foot. So when I was living in Spain, I had this kind of in my back pocket, right? We were celebrating one of my friend's birthdays. We went out to a club, and for sure I was very belligerent drunk. And even more than likely, oblivious. I was oblivious to the fact that this group of 4 young, beautiful Spanish girls had some other Spaniards that were trying to get after them.
Court them.
Okay, court them. Fair. Great.
Yeah.
I was oblivious to the fact that they had just gone out to get drinks. And so I danced with these 4 girls for like 3 songs. And it was fun. 1 guy, 4 girls. It's a lot of fun. I had my eye on one of them.
But go ahead.
And then I had to pee. So I find the restroom, head to the restroom. There's like 4 stalls to piss. And I take the middle one. And I start peeing. And I then realize, like, oh, you're kind of drunk. Because I'm just like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That famous going to the stall and, oh, fuck.
Okay, you're a little there. You're there.
Little toaster right now.
You're there. And then I felt somebody grab my neck. And at first I thought it was a joke. Like I thought it was a friend. And then I felt that the hand got a little tighter and a little stronger. I kind of look back and I realize, oh shit, this guy's trying to kill me. And he's literally trying to grab anything that I have in my neck to try to pull, thinking that that might do something.
I have a question. Was your cock still out and you're
Yes.
peeing?
My cock was
That's one of my biggest fears, man.
fully out. Stream going. And immediately in my head, I'm thinking, what do I do? I can't run home to mommy. I can't call one of my boys. I'm in the bathroom. Right? I'm alone here. And there's no one else in this bathroom. It's literally just me and whoever the hell is grabbing on my neck. So, my instincts kicked in. I don't know who this is, but I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure that I'm out of this situation, and if I kill this person, I'm sorry. So, I elbowed him. Immediately, that released my neck, and that felt great.
Yeah.
I grabbed his neck, and now I have control of this neck. I grab the arm, and now with this, I'm like, all right, little bitch, now we dance. And now I just shove his head fucking down straight into the toilet. Another famous move that you know I've done multiple times in my life. But this time, because I'm now on the complete aggressive to make sure that I am fiending for my life.
Yeah.
I slam his head across the urinal. I'm still pissing. Across the urinal.
That was going to be my follow-up question. Did you put your cock away, or were you still peeing?
I'm still pissing. And now
That shit's flying everywhere.
It's everywhere. I grab hold of his neck now, let go of his hand because he's confused. He didn't know what happened. And I slam him again into the urinal, throw him with what's left, finish pissing, last couple drops. I know it ended up like all on the back of his right leg. I washed my hands like a good man.
Wash your hands, people.
And security guard ran in with 3 of my other friends who realized what had basically started to happen as soon as they started hearing the weird noises.
Yeah.
Because it sounds kind of weird when a skull hits a fucking urinal twice. And we were out of that sucker.
Spanish authorities are still looking for you to ask you questions about that night. Is that why you haven't gone back? Nah.
So the security guard quickly realized what happened because the 4 girls were outside the bathroom kind of waiting
On the outcome.
and
Who's
then
going to take me home tonight?
and then it clicked because one of my other friends told me, he was like, you fucking idiot, this was like their 3rd date and you just came in and just took like the girl that I was interested in, like just took over the whole group, and like the guys were out getting drinks for the girls.
He was just mad you didn't give him his shot.
Right. So what's the whole point here?
You said there was a point, John.
We went out. We tried to conquer. You caught me with my dick out.
Literally. Caught you with your pants down.
But you fought like a man because I had the confidence, the training, the know-how.
Yeah.
To say I can get out of this situation unscathed. Never went back to that club ever again.
Yeah. The Spanish authorities are still looking to contact you about that night.
No, they're not. And I mean, to be real, I saw that kid like 4 days later, and he didn't say fuck all to me because he was a university kid. We're all university kids.
Yeah.
We're all going to school. I saw him. You can tell because, I mean, you hit your head hits the urinal twice. What do you
Yeah.
think your face going to look like?
Yeah.
You're gonna look like you got hit in the urinal twice.
Still have the cake residue on his on his cheek. Stinky, I think, probably.
So
Takes a few weeks to get that sent out.
very few do those instances where you need to have self-defense
Yeah.
occur. And like I painted the picture, yes, I was drunk. I was trying to talk to girls. I was having fun.
Yeah.
I had no intention. Just, this girl's cute. Let's go talk to them. Let's go have some fun. Let's go dance with them. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I got to go pee. Let's go pee. Okay, let's go pee. Now we're peeing. Oh, shit.
Yeah. That sobered you up real quick, I imagine.
So you need to have some sort of training.
Yeah.
To be able to defend yourself if you're out in that situation. At that moment, I knew once I had this fucker on my neck, I needed to be a monster.
Yeah.
And there was nothing stopping me from being a monster. Not even my dick out.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's just appreciate that. That's a scenario that I think about often, to be honest. Of me at a pisser
And
with
somebody,
my cock out and someone attacking me. That
Yeah.
I think about that all the time, and I'm like, one of my first thoughts is, man, am I gonna have the wherewithal in that moment to put my dick away, or is that even gonna matter? Or
it's not going to
am I-
matter.
I'm gonna be like the Greeks when they go fight and butt naked.
It's not going to matter.
I know, but just for the sake of being silly, John. No, but seriously, that's something I think about every so often. I'm like, what am I going to do in this situation?
What are you doing to get in those situations in the first place? Because this is not something I've ever occurred, never thought about it.
It's just one of those random thoughts. I'd be at I'll be somewhere and taking a piss, and then someone just like, what if someone attacks me right now? It's just one of those weird thoughts you have when you're taking a piss. It's not something I think about every day. But yeah, whatever. Now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do exactly what you did. It's already been done.
Elbow them. Aim for the neck.
Aim for the neck.
To go straight to the urinal. And if you have your dick out like I did, then piss on them a couple times just so that they know who's daddy.
Say my
so that when you
name,
see them the
bitch.
next time out on the street, you don't even have to say anything. And he doesn't have to say anything. He'll just look at you like a little fucking whimper of a...
Yeah.
What did you call it?
Urinal cake.
Urinal cake.
Do they even have urinal cakes in
Yes,
Spain?
it was lime green, so yeah, it was there. I
Lime
remember
green
it.
urinal cake.
It was great.
Mint flavor, I think.
I think it was oranges, if I'm being
Ah.
honest. Like lime.
Citrus.
Yeah.
I like how the story ended. I still wash my hands. And I bagged the one I was looking at the entire time. He don't kiss and tell. You don't have to.
A gentleman never remembers.
That's a good point. Good point. No, but these are, dude, I think this has been a productive conversation. It seems like, I think, just to kind of synthesize things.
We're cutting?
No, but I want to synthesize things and take the moment to synthesize, because we've talked about it quite a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And if the theme is, in the episode is really about, growing up, right? One of the things we've talked about a lot is that Jordan Peterson become the monster. What does that look like? And so for
someone
people,
capable of fucking hitting somebody over the head in your
there you go, right? I mean, that's part of it. But I think just to synthesize, if what we're saying here today is we're having a crisis of kids, adults still being kids and still victims to their own circumstances. How do we get out of that? And again, I think that boils down to discipline, and that takes the form of a lot of things, right? That takes the form of, intellectual thinking, right? Thinking for yourself, doing the research, taking the time to learn more about the world. That's important. Physical discipline, learn to fight, right? What are you going to do in those situations when something bad happens? Because here goes the thing, people freeze, right? Because they have not been in that position before, and they have no skills or tools to reach to get them to the next side. And those tools, again, those tools are within yourself, right? It's nothing fancy you can buy. Even people like with firearms, for example, a firearm is only as good as the person shooting it. Right. And if you don't have the discipline or the skills to use that tool, it will be meaningless.
That's what I'm saying. If it's dirty, you don't have the discipline to clean it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're shit out of luck.
Exactly. So, just I think it all starts with discipline. I think that's really where everything we talk about begins and ends. And I think as we really touched on earlier, giving yourself the grace to learn from your failures and sitting with your failures,
right,
to then put you to that next level and understand your failures. As a sort of like a button in the middle of the episode, I think those are important to synthesize.
Okay, fair enough.
But
no blue light.
No blue light. And watch the blue light. If you're going to watch porn, you dirty dogs, put that red shift on.
Don't watch porn.
Yeah, don't watch porn. But if you watch porn, I'm telling you, put that red shift on so at least you're getting, half of the benefit. But seriously, don't watch porn. It's not really good for you. If again, check out our last episode too, because I think our last episode was really good. I'm really happy with that last episode. All 15 people have seen it so far. No, but damn. Other than that, man, what else? What are you thinking? What are some other tools that you would like to pass on to people that growing up? Blink had a good song. Well, I guess this is growing up.
Well, so, how do you find a mentor?
Yeah, that's a good question.
If you don't have the father figure, you don't have the grandfather, you don't have somebody who's willing to help you, what can you do? I think that's something that we should dabble on.
Yeah. If right off the top of my head, I think learning something new, right? If let's say an instrument, for example, you pick up an instrument, you go even pay for lessons, maybe. Right in, you have a built-in teacher who knows more than you, and you learn a lot faster from someone who knows more than you. So I think, and the music is just an example, but
sure.
Getting involved in things, right? You have to put yourself out of your comfort zone to do different things, because that's where you network and meet with people. That's another part of growing up, is networking and getting outside and doing something, whatever it is that interests you or could interest you, right? How do you know something sucks if you've never tried it, right? So I think that's at least one thing off the top of my head I think is important in finding a mentor is getting out of your comfort zone and doing new things and meeting new people, right? I think another thing you could do is, even at your work, let's say you want to grow within your company, part of that networking is building relationships with others. And if you're able to build a relationship, with someone who's in a position who is higher than yours, and that's where you want to see yourself be,
sure,
it's good to maybe get a mentor that way as well. Hey, what are some of the things that you've done? How can I learn from you? Or just, watching what they do and brainstorming with them. I think that goes a long way. What do you think?
No, I agree. Where I was going to start taking this conversation is I was going to be a technologist.
Here we go.
And I was going to say, all right, why not use ChatGPT to help you. Why not use these YouTube influencers who can kind of, not just YouTube, but Instagram,
Influencers in general.
influencers who can kind of give you some guidance. And so I would like for you to go ahead and read this, because this is something that ChatGPT created. Because I basically gave it a bunch of prompts.
Yeah.
One of them being Jordan Peterson. Another, let's call them personalities, was Steve Jobs, Carl Jung. So if you don't know who these people are, first person, right?
Jordan Peterson.
Psychologist. Steve Jobs, technologist, CEO of Apple. Third person,
Carl Jung.
Carl Jung, another psychologist. Fourth person I added was Jocko Willink. You quoted Aristotle.
Yeah.
He kind of stole from Aristotle.
Yeah.
Because he says discipline is freedom.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing.
I'll say he inspired by Aristotle.
Okay,
I wouldn't argue that he stole it.
You don't want to say he stole it?
Because I think he would probably give credit where credit is due.
Of course he does.
Exactly. So that's not stealing. That's.
But he's building on the foundation of greats. So he stole it.
Yeah, he stole it. What a Jocko Willing. Okay, any more people?
David Goggins. And then the wild card that
Here we go.
needed to be in there, Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan. Interesting.
And so I basically created a round table with ChatGPT and these personalities asking some fundamental questions that we're talking about in this podcast.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, I said, okay, ChatGPT, I want you to create a synopsis in 4 paragraphs of all of these prescriptions that we've discussed at this round table. And so I have that. I can either show it to you digitally or I can give you the copy.
Whatever you prefer, whatever you're planning.
What do you prefer?
Like a physical copy?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
printed it out?
I can get
Yeah, let's take the physical copy. I'd like to see that.
Give me a second. Let me run inside.
All right, we're back from our break.
We pissed.
Nobody
was injured.
No one was injured this time.
No one was harmed.
No one's face was shoved in the urinal cakes. Where, they had urinal cake for dessert or something. I don't know. All right. So, John, I'm going to let you introduce where we left off with your exploration into ChatGPT.
So I mean, what I wanted to do is essentially find a no excuse way using technology to help younger people find a better guiding light to figuring out how to become better people. And so with this roundtable ChatGPT discussion that I had with, these multiple people, I was thinking we can kind of come to a consensus at the end of it by saying, okay, ChatGPT, take everybody's opinions and thoughts and beliefs to this whole conversation and give it to me, in a well-educated 4-paragraph synopsis, kind of highlighting everything that we discussed and kind of create a guiding principle, foundation, basis as to what we can do. And so the whole point of it was there's no excuse for you to find mentors, to find people to help guide you on what it is that you can do. And using technology with ChatGPT,
Yeah.
I was able to find something that I've read now a couple times and I'm like pretty happy with. That if I just naturally just came in here and I just read this off, you would say, holy hell, what the hell, dude? You really thought this through.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of surprise you and have you read this and at the same time see your reaction as you're reading it.
Yeah. Just all full disclaimer, I have not read this at all. I had no idea that this was a part of the show today. Actually, really, anyway, but I told you offline that ChatGPT and Gemini are generally as good as the prompts they're given, right? So with that said, I'm going to read. Really, I mean, even though this is from ChatGPT, it's with the base thinking from the masters.
Well, there's 4 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Do you want to split them?
Yeah, we can split them. How do you want to divide it?
You go first, man.
I'll read the first 2.
Okay.
And I'll let you read the second 2. All right, let's do it. And here I have to you this great 4-paragraph. I don't even know what to introduce it as. But here we go. I'll just read it. I don't want to sound like a fucking asshole. All right. To cultivate confidence and assertiveness, one must first understand that these traits are not inherent, but earned through disciplined action and continuous self-improvement. Confidence emerges from competence, which is developed by consistently challenging yourself, embracing discomfort, and expanding your skill set. Assertiveness grows from a clear understanding of your values, purpose, and capabilities, enabling you to stand firm in your decisions. Begin by setting high, meaningful goals that align with a larger vision of who you want to become, and pursue them with an uncompromising commitment to discipline. Face your fears and the resistance that often accompanies growth. Confidence is built by voluntarily confronting the unknown and emerging from it stronger. Assertiveness, in turn, is fostered by acting decisively and cultivating the courage to speak your truth, regardless of external opinions. Productivity, this is the second paragraph.
Okay.
Productivity is achieved through the elimination of distractions and the prioritization of meaningful work. Break down large goals into smaller, achievable tasks and execute each step with discipline, avoiding the mental trap of procrastination. Procrastination often stems from the fear or the perception of overwhelming complexity. This can be dismantled through consistent action and reframing the task in manageable pieces. Develop routines that anchor your day and purpose, such as waking up early, exercising, and allocating time for deep work. In terms of communication, become more effective by being precise, honest, and empathetic. Mastering the art of clear expression requires both understanding your own message deeply and delivering it in a way that resonates with others. Focus on direct, purposeful communication that builds trust and influences others, while honing your listening skills to enhance mutual understanding and leadership potential. And now, I'm going to pass it to my good friend on the right.
Third paragraph. Failure is an inevitable part of personal and professional development, but how you respond to it defines your trajectory. Instead of allowing failure to become a source of defeat, view it as feedback, an opportunity to correct your course and deepen your understanding of yourself and your environment. This requires a mindset shift. Success is not defined by our absence of failure, but by a relentless ability to adapt and improve. Each setback should be met with reflection, learning, and a renewed commitment to growth. In moments of stagnation or when motivation wanes, reconnect with the underlying vision that drives you. Clarify your purpose, set smaller, immediate goals to generate momentum, and rely on discipline to carry you through periods of inertia. Motivation will fluctuate, but discipline and purpose sustain long-term progress. In your 20s, the skills you cultivate will lay the foundation for lifelong success. Focus on leadership, emotional intelligence, and the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. Master the art of self-discipline, managing your time with precision, and developing a resilient work ethic that does not rely on external motivation. Learn to balance short-term sacrifices with long-term gains, delaying gratification in pursuit of your larger vision. Financial literacy, communication, and networking are crucial, as is the ability to innovate and think critically. Surround yourself with mentors and individuals who challenge you to grow and never stop learning or refining your abilities. Ultimately, success is about combining mental toughness, emotional intelligence, and strategic foresight to navigate the complexities of life with strength, wisdom, and vision.
Wow. That's good, man. That's really good.
Don't give me the bullshit
No,
that you don't have a mentor.
yeah.
You don't have somebody to seek. You don't have somebody to help. When all you have to do, you can fucking ask ChatGPT and they'll give you some solid advice
Yeah.
on how to grow up.
Man. Kind of taking it back, man. That's pretty powerful stuff, dude. I mean, I love that a lot of it hits on some of the points we've been making, and then really kind of clarifies it and says it better than I think, I ever could, or you. Well, probably you. You're a better speaker than I am, but man, there was something in here that really stuck out. Yeah, I mean, that last line, success is about combining mental toughness, emotional intelligence, and strategic foresight to navigate the complexities of life with strength, wisdom, and vision. I mean, that really sums it all up right there. Right? How do we develop all these things? How do we develop mental toughness? We have to. Another word for mental toughness would be resilience. Right? How do you develop grit?
Angela Duckworth, she's got a book, and that's what it's all about. It's called Grit.
Yeah. How do you develop that? And I think you develop that by doing hard things, right? Because in anything you do, it's not going to go the way you want, right? But how do you put yourself in the best possible position to get to where you want to be, right? And that's through resilience. And then emotional intelligence, I mean, that's a clear one, right? I think part of that emotional intelligence that we've been hitting on is empathy and understanding. A lot of times, people are so affected by something that it almost paralyzes them. Right? And being able to have, or really another word, I think emotional intelligence would be wisdom, right?
Of course.
And actionable knowledge.
But wisdom is a combination of things.
Of course.
Emotional intelligence is also part of like your social quotient, right?
Yeah.
Your SQ.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people don't have an SQ anymore.
Yeah.
Famously, you can say that waiters in New York City, for some odd reason, have a higher social quotient than in any other city. There's a level of service that is expected and an observational level that comes with being a New Yorker, with all of the commotion that happens.
Yeah.
That you can tell that man is going to need a napkin in 4 seconds. Let's send that. Let's send this. Let's move this. Let's make sure this happens.
Yeah.
Without having to be said or asked. And that's one of the things that people love about New York. That there's this higher social intelligence about what's needed, right? At a level of service, right?
Yeah.
that you don't get in other places.
I mean, it kind of comes to that your environment sort of shapes you,
Right.
you know?
I've been to you can throw in Trump, the best, the greatest, the most spectacular restaurant.
The best, the greatest, the most spectacular restaurant
in all of Cuba.
In all of Cuba. They make great cigars. I know. They tell me. I know.
And explain to me why we had a reservation and it still took them 4 hours before they were able to seat us.
Yeah.
With a reservation in the best place. There's just a level of service that they don't give a fuck about.
Yeah.
We're on an island and we ain't going nowhere, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different, right? Your environment shapes you.
Right.
It's clear your environment has a big impact on how you develop and how you become. I think it's in a lot of ways there's some important things that it's important your environment has and should shape you, right? But it's also, I think, important to remember too that your environment doesn't have to, whatever negatives there are. I think it's important to take the good with the good and learn how to distinguish what's not good for you.
Right.
And it's hard sometimes, right? People's environments are often used as an excuse for poor decisions.
Right.
Right? So...
But that's when you can use your environment, your race, your creed, your religion, your parents, the lack of them, the lack of a mentor.
Yeah.
I grew up in the hood and all you could see are gangsters.
Yeah.
The drug dealer was the guy who made all the money. Nobody else mattered. No. It's because you're looking at the wrong things.
Yeah.
There's still business owners. There's still people working and hustling, striving, who have discipline.
Yeah.
There's still a lot that you're just not looking at. You're not caring to pay any attention to.
But remember, the people, and take whatever whatever subgroup out of it, right? I think what any subgroup who goes through that, wherever they're from, if they're looking at this quick, easy sort of life, I think they're seeing I think they're children still, right? Because here goes, I think this chat GPT thing is a really good example. And a child might ask chat GPT questions you would expect from a child, but someone who really thinks about these things, it's all about the prompt. It's all about the questions you ask.
Mm-hmm.
and the direction you're coming from, right? You as, again, we're on growth, right? None of us are done with anything, right? We haven't met the end until we fucking die. But you can tell, right? The prompt, the questions that you ask, the type of things that you put in are going to be different than someone who doesn't have the same mindset as you.
No, 100%.
You know what I mean? So it's rough, man. Like, I think people have to have a real desire to want growth. And I think they need people who are looking for growth. They need to, again, I think becoming that monster. How do you become that monster? I think the most important component of that is accepting, unlike this guy at the fucking light who isn't moving for the fire guy. Go get him, brothers. No, yeah, just to kind of think, I think before anyone reaches that level where they, are looking for that growth, they have to fully accept responsibility.
Right.
That's a huge component, man. How do you become a monster, right? You can't become a monster if you don't think you can, right?
Or you accept the fact that you are weak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think it's synonymous. If you accept the fact that you're weak, or accept that you cannot be something, then you're not going anywhere. You're infantile. You're going to give in to your weaker desires and virtues. But yeah, ultimately, like I said, man, I think the key to that, becoming that monster, is understanding that you have a role to play in your life. You are not a side character in your life. You are the main character.
Right.
And what you do matters, right? And so, how do you become a monster? You fucking tell yourself that you can become the monster, and you accept that you can become the monster. You have to take radical responsibility for your own life. Now, again, there's some school of thoughts that free will, I mean, we've touched about it, episode 1, free will, there's some thought that this doesn't exist. There are things that we can't control. That's the reality. There are things that we don't control every single thought that comes in our head. It's just, that's a part of it. That's a part of life. But the difference is between someone who has radical responsibility, acceptance of responsibility, someone who just believes that life happens to them, is they take ownership of what they can't control, right? So even if that argument of free will does not exist, we ultimately are the ones responsible for controlling things we can, and again, knowing what's the difference, knowing what we can control. I think that serenity prayer is so powerful.
Exactly.
You have to have the wisdom to know the difference.
And that's definitely the benefit of having faith, right?
100%.
Right. Again, going back to the Eastern European belief of Christianity, but that's the benefit. The benefit is it teaches you faith, it teaches you resilience, it teaches you, how to define who you are and who you want to become, so that you can make actual changes to becoming that.
Yeah.
Whereas on the Eastern side, the same is true. The same can be true, but it instead of coming from external,
within the self.
External, what's the right word?
Instead of coming from a deity or a religious dogma.
Not just not just religion, but just like an Eastern born child would ask, we're coming from the earth outwards, as opposed to this divine notion of God, right? The earth itself helped create who you are. And so that inward, right, approach is of the meditation of the yogi, right? Confucianism. And I mean, it's even, if we're really looking at a historical context, because you are a historian.
I wish I was a historian. I'm just a student of history.
The Japanese, right, as a nation, grew unto itself who they became because of the samurai group, the militaristic, highly disciplined warriors, to say, we will not continue with the tyranny coming from these British pirates, from these Portuguese pirates. We will stand up and we will fight against both. And they dominated and they won. And that's what liberated themselves, and at the same time created that samurai class, right? So you can fight, but at the same time, you have to learn how to hone that warrior, warrior spirit. That's why Genghis was here.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, the warrior spirit's important. But why does a warrior fight? Right? I think we look at if someone who...
I mean, it's to defend, it's to protect, or it's to conquer.
That's touching on exactly what I'm saying, though. So I think I just don't want it to get confused that, or really more not so much that, but I wanted to emphasize a point that a warrior, just as you said, to defend, to protect, to conquer. What do those all imply? They imply that there's something greater than the warrior.
Sure.
Right? And I think whether there's a religious aspect or not, right, I think everyone has to find something that's above themselves. And that could be in the form of many different things, right? But what's the point of fighting if it's senseless? It has no meaning to it, right? And that's not necessarily you need to go out and fucking kill and fight or physically fight, right? If you need to fight, by all means, do what you got to do. But what I'm saying, I think anyone can apply this warrior mindset into their life, is that there has to be something that's greater than yourself. That's part of the spiritual aspect of it, and I think that transcends.
But it's also part of the American aspect.
True, but maybe I'm not articulating clearly enough.
No, you are.
No, but I mean, I guess my point is that it's important to consider, or to at least have some sort of value in your life that, hey, I'm working towards something better than just me.
Right.
Because if you're fighting, let's say, I imagine the warrior out there just gonna go fucking, like, just tear shit up for the sense of tearing shit up, like the movie The Terrifier, number 3. That was fucking crazy. Even he's probably fighting for something.
Right.
I think the point still stands. What inspires a warrior, I think, is we're fighting for something better than ourselves. And that could be, everyone has to define what that thing is for themselves.
Right.
I think religious people see that their spirituality, their connection to God, I see that that's something that's greater for themselves. For people who are non-religious, I think it still stands. You need something, right? You need something above yourself to say, hey, these are my higher ideals. These are my values. And this is why it's important. This is because it's bigger than me. I think it transcends belief, right? It's kind of built in for religious dogmas because, that's what, those are the values inculcated through, a church, to a synagogue or a mosque or whatever. But still, I think everyone needs that. Like, hey, this is the higher ideals. This is why I do what I do. And again, it could be as small as, it could be small. It's just it's important to have something that you're working towards that's bigger than you, in my opinion, anyways. Had a burp. Like, example, this podcast. I think this podcast and what we're doing here is bigger than us individually, right? I don't think we're here coming from a position of this is what you need to do. We're very rigid in what we're saying, and I think we're just here to provide an alternative. Maybe get someone to question something that's a little bit different than they might have heard from elsewhere. And, ultimately with the benefit of trying to use our journeys and our experiences to help someone who's not there yet, to see, hey, they don't have to live a certain way anymore if they don't want to.
Even your own.
Exactly. Right?
Like, what if maybe not now, but like, I don't really see that YouTube's going anywhere.
Yeah.
So long as we don't get completely kicked out of the YouTube.
I'm sure it's going to happen, especially after that opening monologue. Why are you wearing those glasses? Do you remember COVID?
I'm saying I don't have any kids.
Yeah.
Currently, but my great great-grandchildren, if they ever wanted to look at and see who's this crazy blue light glass wearing great-grandfather that I've heard of,
Yeah.
they could find out.
Absolutely. And that's true too. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this could go nowhere, right? I mean, we're getting 15 viewers, right? There's a little bit of self-awareness and humility that you get with 15 viewers, and I'm okay with that. But I also see the benefit of doing this is like a time capsule.
Sure.
That, on this date and time, this is what, my great-great-great-grandpa thought.
Right.
And my hope is that there is some curiosity. And I think that's something we talked about last episode a lot, was curiosity. And being, inquisitive about everything, right? And, I've been, and I think I told you this before, but lately I've just been fucking super interested in ancient history. Like, I Googled today, man, what did the Romans eat? Or when did they start eating pasta in Italy? Or in what is now Italy, right? And 4th century BCE, they were eating pasta. There's some semblance of what we know as pasta today being made by people in what is now Italy. And I think that's fucking super fascinating. Just like little shit like that. But lately I've just been kind of diving into some of those things in my Google
journey.
Yeah, Google journey. But it's just important. I hope we still have that curiosity, and I'm not gonna be, hold myself up on a pedestal or anything like that. But I like to think I wonder sometimes what my great grandparents thought, what their experiences were.
Sure.
And I have very little of that.
Right.
I heard something funny, interesting, actually. It was in ancient Egypt. There was a god who was supposedly responsible for giving the gift of writing. And he, in his hubris, said, "I have given you the gift of writing. Now you can preserve everything." And the god pharaoh responded, "You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Now our oral traditions aren't going to matter." And I was talking about this with my wife today. Oral traditions are super important. Passing down everything from cooking to agriculture to history and everything. We've lost some of that. And I feel part of what we're doing here is kind of contributing back to some of these oral stories. It's preserved through video and audio and all that, but hopefully passing something down and someone might have some value. I think it's what I feel my greater purpose is in doing these episodes. Right?
Fair enough.
So it's interesting, man. I love it.
And we get to document the fact that I called it. It's the Dodgers and the Yankees.
That's true.
That's all I have to say.
At the time of this recording, the Los Angeles Dodgers will be facing off in the World Series, the 2024 Fall Classic, against the New York Yankees. As you can tell, I have my bias.
I'm calling it's going to be 7 games. We're going to milk that tit.
Oh, I'm sure.
As much as we can.
It's going to be, at least for the ratings, it's going to be pretty freaking epic.
Milk the tit.
The teat. It's the teat. Come on, don't be vulgar.
Until the fat lady sings, and the fat lady usually's got 2 tits.
Fair. That's true. There was a movie I'm thinking of where she has 1 single tit.
Jesus. Not familiar.
Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. This is one of the funniest movies ever made, I think.
Not a friend of the pod.
Not a friend of the pod, but damn good one. Actually, I wanted to touch base real quick. Horror movies.
Oh,
I brought
boy.
it up. The Terrifier. Holy shit, that movie is wild as fuck. I'm talking that movie I saw the movie maybe like 3 weeks ago, and I'm still thinking about it. Like, that's how intense that movie was. It's one of those movies where, so anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, including you, I'm sure.
Right.
If you go on Amazon Prime, do you have Amazon Prime? You should. Everybody has Amazon Prime. It's almost like a given. Well, if you go to the Amazon on their video, Prime Video, they have All Hallows Eve, which is the original. The Terrifier, which is the first one. The All Hallows Eve is kind of like almost like an anthology. There's different little segments with the same character, though. Art the Clown. So the Terrifier was the first full narrative with this character. And then there's Terrifier 2, obviously, and then most recently Terrifier 3. But these movies are visceral. I'm talking about the most carnage that I've seen in a movie. It not only is it harkened back to old school slasher films of the 80s, but this takes it to a new level. I mean, it is wild. Like Terrifier 3 really... The practical effects are amazing, by the way, but they really take it to the limits. I will say, without giving any plot away to anyone watching, the opening sequence to Terrifier 3 was actually unnerving. I don't get scared of horror movies that often. I torture myself with horror movies. When I was a kid, I was 7 years old, my dad had The Nightmare on Elm Street on Laserdisc. Anyone who doesn't know, Laserdisc is like a fucking DVD. We don't even use DVDs anymore. This big. And when you watch the movie, it had to switch sides. So it had a side A and a side B, almost like a record. But anyways, so when I was a kid, I would watch my dad. He recorded Nightmare on Elm Street onto a VHS for me. And I remember it was 7 years old. I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street on my VCR. And I would watch like 10 minutes at a time because this shit fucking fucked me up. I was like, oh, fucking Freddy's right outside my window right now. I was screwed. But I tortured myself with horror movies. But from that, I love horror movies. And then now I realize what I love about horror movies, I can articulate a bit more, is the unnerving sort of, you're watching something that you know is not right. Like when you see an image and it just makes you feel so uncomfortable that you're kind of taken aback. I think that's the horror. The jump scares are fun from time to time, but when you watch something like in The Shining, when the elevator opens up and the blood pours out, you just know you're watching something that this isn't right. There's something wrong here. Or if there's like an overwhelming sense of darkness to it. I don't know. I like that. So the Terrifier, this opening sequence, again, without giving too much away, had that for me. And it wasn't the most carnage in the whole movie, because believe me, this movie, the gore takes it to levels that I don't think I've seen in a long, long time, especially done in that way.
Yeah.
But in that opening sequence, it felt so wrong. I felt so like vulnerable, I guess you could say. and you're watching it unfold, and you know how it's gonna unfold. He's gonna fucking murder this family.
Yeah.
But how he does it, and even though I know what the outcome is gonna be, it's just so freaking like gut wrenching, you know. And that's good horror movies.
Yeah.
Hereditary is another one, where it's just that climax at the end of Hereditary is absolutely visceral. And, you know, those good horror movies really just, they stamp that image in your mind. That's fucking good horror. But, yeah, man, fucking The Terrifier. If anyone hasn't seen it or is interested in seeing it, you can find it on Amazon Prime. They're not paying us. No one pays us dick to do this show. We just do it out of passion and love and doing something for a greater purpose. So no one pays us dick, but you should go see The Terrifier. It's on Amazon, All Hallows Eve, and then The Terrifier 1 and 2 are on Amazon right now, and then you could go see Terrifier 3 in the theater, and it's fucking Halloween, the Halloween season. All Hallows Eve, baby. Like, that's what we're doing. Watch some horror movies. I saw The Exorcist, the most recent Exorcist last night, and it was good. It wasn't like terrible. It was a good one, but it just didn't have that wow factor for me. But then I also watched Sam Raimi's. I don't even know how to say his name. I think it's Raimi. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. Drag Me to Hell is damn funny, but it's got some good imagery in there as well. But John, you're reaching that 2-hour mark. What do you have to say in closing, man? I think we talked about a lot of good things.
I think we killed that cat.
Well, on that note, if that cat is dead, I will like to say thank you for watching. This is Below the Trees, episode 7, man. Can you believe it?
Nice.
I can believe it. But talk about discipline. You know, it's a lot. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's a lot, but it is a commitment. It takes effort to come and actually record this. You know, it kind of talked about, I think we said it in one episode, sometimes you just have to do the thing.
Right. And
that this is us doing the thing. Sort of regardless of what the outcome is, I enjoy it. I have a fun
as do I
time, you know, chatting with you about some of these broader issues that I think we're facing as not just individuals, but as men and where we are in society. So I appreciate that conversation as always.
For sure.
And this is the Below the Trees. I fucked that up. This is the Below the Trees podcast. Do all the normal YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe. And thank you for indulging us with your time today. We really appreciate you, all 15 viewers from last week and the previous week. Probably the same viewers, which is okay. We don't care. We really enjoy doing this kind of content. And we'll keep doing it for as long as we're having fun with it, I imagine. Right? So again, thank you for watching this episode. We'll see you next time.
Oh.
All right. Let's see. What to say. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. My name is Bryan. I'm with my good friend and co-host,
John.
Excellent. So we're here today. We're talking about some issues related to growing up. Why haven't we grown up yet? Well, there's a lot of things. So here, sit down and have a conversation with us about why we haven't grown up yet. All right. Bloopers. All right. Welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. Today we're talking about several very, very important topics. We touch on the World Series 2024 against the Dodgers and Yankees. And when I say we touch on it, we barely touch on it. That means we start. All right. Hey, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. We got a great episode for you. I mean, really great one. This one was a lot of fun. And I don't know what I'm saying here. Let me start over again. What was the title on the Google Docs? It was like
How to Grow Up.
How to Grow Up. Okay. All right. Hello, welcome to the Below.
Sorry.
And hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We appreciate you tuning in today. This episode is great. We're talking about how to grow up. We're giving you some our perspectives on what it means to be a man in today's world and how to, what would you say, grow up.
Grow the fuck up.
Grow the fuck up, man. We also get into some issues about, I think I know where it's going.
Where's it going?
Start over. I know where it's going.
Where did it go? It went.
This one's hard. This one's hard to know.
Shouldn't be. It's the same shit. Okay. Whatever you want.
Hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We got a great episode for you today. A really fun one, if I might add. But today we're talking about some really important issues as it relates to men. in our last episode, you'll note that we talked about anxiety and our horniness, and I'm going to start this again because fuck. All right, here we go. Hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We got a really good episode for you today. We're talking about some serious issues, as we usually do, with a little bit of humor, just a little bit today. We talk about really just growing up, and grow the fuck up, guys. Come on. And I can't do this intro today for whatever reason. All right, let me see.
This one's so bad, I might add it.
All right.
Usually it's like, this one's good. This one's all right.
And then it gets better. And then now
sometimes, though, it's just like, bro, this is extras.
Yeah, this is we're a lot of bonus content today. All right, here we go. And hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We're talking about some really great issues today, including fuck all. All right. You're making me go piss. I'll do the intro. Hello there. Welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We're talking about some really good and interesting things today, including why John has to take a piss in the backyard. No, just kidding. And starting over again now. Hey, dude, I think I hear that in the background. You know, these mics catch a lot. I'll wait. Hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We have a great episode for you today, a really fun one, if I might add. Today we're talking about growing the fuck up sometimes and accepting responsibility and employing discipline in our daily lives. And it was a real fun one, of course, with a little bit of humor per the usual. We also get into some interesting blue light, red light conversations, as well as talking about horror movies. So please stay tuned. Have a chair, sit up, pull up a... I got it this time. Though. Hello, and welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We got a really good one for you today. A really fun one, I know. We're talking about growing up. Guys, come on, we got to grow up. Let's take responsibility. Let's employ some discipline, and let's get to that next level. And that's what we're talking about today. As well as some, Okay, no, that's where I want to go. I got it. Hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We got a really great episode for you today, a fun one, I might add, about growing up, right? Employing a little bit of responsibility and discipline in our daily lives to take us to that next level. So join us on that journey. We also talk about red light and blue light conversations. We're not talking about red light districts. As a matter of fact, the exact opposite of that. Also, a little quick discussion on horror movies. So please, take a seat, grab some popcorn, do whatever you gotta do, and indulge us with your time. We appreciate you for watching, and do all the normal YouTube things like comment and subscribe. Fuck. I almost have it now. All right. Hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. We got a really good one for you today. A fun one, I might add. We talk about growing up, accepting responsibility, employing a little bit of discipline in your lives to get you to that next level. So join us on this journey. Of course, we employ a little bit of humor as best as we can. And we talk about some other things, including red light and blue light and horror movies. So stick around, pull up a chair, grab some popcorn, and indulge us with your time. We appreciate you for being here. Do all the normal YouTube things, like, comment, and subscribe. And we appreciate you for being here. Thank you. This is Below the Trees. Almost there. That was hard. It is fucking hard, man. Alright. I think I'm gonna try one more. But I think that take is good. Hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. Today we got a really good one for you. Fun one, I might add. We're talking about growing up and using and accepting responsibility, employing a little bit of discipline to get to that next level. So please pull up a chair, grab some popcorn, and indulge us with your time. Thank you so much for watching. Please do all the normal YouTube things, like, comment, and subscribe, and join us at Below the Trees. That one felt good. I don't know if it was the best one, but it was kind of the best one. We'll do one more just for shits and giggles. The last three are gonna be good. Hello, welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. You're probably wondering why I have these fancy red light glasses on. Well, stay tuned and you'll find out. Today we get into some really interesting conversations. I'm talking good stuff. Like, why aren't we growing up? You know, taking responsibility, employing a little bit of discipline to get to that next level. That's the journey we're going to take you on today. So please pull up a chair, grab some popcorn, do all those normal YouTube things. Indulge us with your time. We appreciate you for being here. This is Below the Trees. That was good. Last one. Welcome to the Below the Trees podcast. You're probably wondering, why are you wearing those silly glasses? Well, I have an answer for you, but you got to watch the episode. Today we get into some really interesting conversations here. We talk about red light and blue light exposure. We talk about horror films, and most importantly, we talk about growing up. Why the heck haven't we grown up yet? We talk about responsibility and putting a little bit of discipline. So please join us on this journey. Let's get to that next level together. This is the Below the Tree podcast. Do all the normal YouTube stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate you for being here. We appreciate you for watching. And thank you for indulging us with your time.